believe in four big ideas to develop effective learning networks within schooling systems. The first and probably the most important idea is to include the students' perspectives about what an innovative learning environment might look like for them.
A powerful learning environment would meet 7 learning principles. The first one is that learning has to be at the center of all activity.
We use infinity maps for students to map their interactive webs and then analyse them to identify change priorities.
There has to be engagement, and learners need to come to understand themselves as learners.
Teachers and parents support rather than direct their children to make appropriate changes and to hold on to ways of learning.
The second is to understand that learning is something social. It's not, as we often think, something very private to each individual. Learning depends on engagement, interaction.
Interaction. On a l'interaction avec des profs. On a des connaissances transmises par des professeurs et la valeur est sur la morale et sur les nouvelles choses.
Learning depends on emotions, essentially. Positive emotions and the negative emotions. And saying that, we don't mean that that teachers and schools have to be nice to young people. It's not about being nice, it's about being more effective. The emotions are the other side of the coin of cognitive learning.
What can you do differently? And that's where you get, I want to ask questions when I don't understand.
The fourth one is very much about recognizing individual differences, and particularly the prior learning, the prior knowledge that young people bring to them through their upbringing, through their environment.
Or I want to use a range of resources to help me with this.
How do you take on board those differences that are very real? And you have to if you're going to really optimize learning.
On this one, the friend one, it's only little in between me and him. It says, I was only sharing the answers with my friends, and they used to share some of theirs with me.
The fifth one is about creating learning environments where everyone has a challenging regime of learning.
On this one, we have strategies in all areas: reading, writing, and maths.
In other words, nobody is coasting and nobody is lost. How do you create environments which are challenging for everybody, but are not so challenging that people can't cope?
Au départ, on pense que l'éducation c'est plutôt le prof qui nous transmette des connaissances. Maintenant, je pense qu'il devrait l'interaction entre les profs et l'élève. Le prof doit aussi concentrer sur le besoin des élèves.
The sixth principle is about creating clear expectations and having assessments that are based on those expectations. Assessment is essential to learning. We have to understand where we are. It's about understanding the learning that goes on in relation to what we're really trying to do.
Knowledge is, on the one hand, theoretical, that comes from research and is scientific. But it also involves experiential knowledge, knowledge of how to apply these theories within the classroom situation. There are different types of knowledges, and these all need to be developed. So professional development, or rather teacher learning, as I like to say it, involves the development of all these forms of knowledge.
Well, how do you assess for those? How do you understand whether you're actually achieving those? And I think that's a significant challenge. Formative evaluation, formative assessment is an integral and essential part. That feedback has been shown to be among the most powerful influences, shapers of good learning.
The challenge is creating learning organizations. By that I mean organizations that support the ongoing professional learning of the adults in the organization. The key challenge for school leaders is how do you support, how do you enable the ongoing learning of your professional staff?
And the seventh one is about what we call horizontal connectedness, making connection between individual lessons and bigger concepts, making connection between what's happening in a particular, through different projects, putting together different kinds of knowledge, making connections between the different subjects, making connections between the learning that goes on in schools and the learning that goes on outside of schools. So that whole area of making connection and trying to get away from the fragmentation that often characterizes learning and schooling, that's when the deep learning happens, is when we can make those connections.